Hello, you are listening to the Divorce University online podcast with your hosts, Thomas and Tammy Ferreira.
Hi, I'm Tammy.
And I'm Thomas.
And we are back. And today we're going to kind of cover something that's a little more, I guess, fun. You don't really associate fun with divorce too much.
We got to have some fun.
You got to have some fun. You got to learn to laugh at yourself. And if you've listened to us for any amount of time, you know that we do make a lot of jokes and things in the podcast, not because we don't understand the gravity of the situation, because we've both been through it. We certainly do. But I think if you work in this all day, every day, and if you're going through it, you got to try to find the humor or your life just becomes pure misery.
Right. Those were some pretty dark days for me.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, well, I'll put it this way. My main reaction was hurt.
Yeah.
And hurt tends to manifest itself in anger.
Right.
You know, people hurt us and we get mad at them.
Right.
So a lot of the early struggle that I had was trying to reframe her in a more charitable way.
Right.
And some of that involved blowing off some steam.
But before we got to charity.
Yeah.
So we've titled this episode Your Divorce Song. And it's kind of funny because I think Thomas and I both have, kind of different songs that we've associated with that period in our life. And I think that's true of music in general, that you, it's like when you put on a song from the 80s or whatever, and that takes you back to your childhood. If you're a child of the 80s, some of us are a child of the 70s or the 90s or whatever it is, that period in time. If you listen to a certain song, a lot of times it'll trigger a certain memory or take you back to a certain place. And so I think that's very much what the divorce song, for us is about. And we're going to talk about each of our own choices of divorce soundtracks, so to speak. And then we're going to share a few other things that we did that were maybe not the what am I trying to say? The most becoming of behaviors at that stage, but it was something that helped us deal with, the anger that we felt without lashing out, because you're going to feel anger. And when we talk about this in the podcast, we're not talking about not feeling a certain way. We're just talking about not acting out in a certain way that particularly hurts your court case or hurts your custody issues, in your child custody situation.
Right. And the emotions are there. You can't really stamp them out.
Right.
You can't just not feel them.
Right.
When I have conflict with somebody or when somebody says something that hurts my feelings, I can choose to behave in a way that shows them that I didn't take it personally, or that I'm not reacting emotionally, but maybe I did take it personally, and maybe I am reacting emotionally, and I'm not really in control of that, but I am in control of my response.
Right.
And we, of course, teach that you should always control that response.
Right.
That lashing out never
helps you.
Never really helps.
Right. It always works against you.
But I like to think back on some of the funny things I did. Like I had little songs that I made up about her, and I would chant them. I shouldn't really repeat the one.
We're going to have to do bleeps to talk about some of these. But I want to say something real quick about something that you just said, where, we're trying to behave well, and, you still feel the feelings and they're still there no matter how much you're trying to behave a certain way. And I think this is one of the issues that Thomas and I have with the whole, conscious uncoupling, AKA, Gwyneth Paltrow type of approach to divorce, which is that
we've had 2 or 3 cases that
have used that word. Yeah. And here's the thing, I think that the good part of that is you do want to behave well. And I think that's really what the core of it is about. I think that, what, Gwyneth Paltrow did in her own case is, obviously I think they have a good cooperative relationship now post-divorce, but I think that they tried to behave well in front of their kids, behave well in front of each other. The thing I don't like about that label is it insinuates that you can get a divorce without feeling upset.
Right.
And you can't. I'm here to tell you, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of cases later.
I haven't seen one.
I've never, ever seen one. If it exists, it's a unicorn. Like, it's,
Right.
you know, it's not the norm.
Unicorn.
You
That's
know,
pretty good.
you don't get a divorce without feeling hurt or anger or any of those things. So sometimes when we see things from a distance and somebody is quote unquote conscious uncoupling, it can feel like, wow, how did these people get through this without any hurt or anger or anything? And they didn't. They might have gotten through it behaving well, but they didn't get through it without negative feelings.
Well, what I found is in those cases where they were trying to do that were among some of the most contentious that I can remember.
Right.
And the reason for that is because somebody's sitting there denying what they really feel.
That's what I was just getting ready to say. Somebody's denying their feelings.
Yeah.
Right. And so we're not asking you, you know, in the things we're teaching to deny that that's how you feel. That's how you feel. You know, find your confidant, your parent, your sibling, your whatever. I mean, Thomas and I met about 60 days after each of our divorce processes had started, and we were a huge confidant to the other person. Right. And that's part of what formed our bond at the very beginning, is just having that other person that you could just go, God, I'm so angry at this person. I'm so hurt. You know, we even talked about how we still loved our now ex-spouses at the time, and just all the different emotions that we were processing. So I want you to understand that we don't expect you not to feel things. And that's a lot of what we're going to talk about in this episode, is those feelings and some of the things that we did kind of behind the scenes, so to speak, where we weren't acting out, you know, towards our exes.
Well, I'd like to start with one that's been very precious to me over the years. You know, our kitchen is all torn up. If I look behind me there, I can see the studs. And we were visiting our grandchildren in Idaho, and one of the pipes sprung a leak. And Tammy said, well, why does this have to happen now when we're in Idaho? And my response is, it's because of Daryl.
Who is my ex-husband, whose name we don't say. It's
the man
the one
who shall not be named.
Yes. We have a man that shall not be named and a woman that shall not be named. So, yeah.
Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. So, yeah, we said it was my ex-husband's fault that the ceiling was leaking.
And that's a running joke, because in the beginning, we blamed everything on our exes.
Right.
And that's a pretty human thing.
Yeah.
And so I've kind of turned it into an inside joke.
Yeah.
Generally when something very... some bad coincidence befalls, some act of God that destroys everything.
It has no explanation.
Yeah.
We just assume it's his fault.
You know, why is there a hole in the ozone layer?
His fault.
His fault. Why? I mean, global temperatures are warming, seas are rising, Russia's invading Ukraine.
The dog dies.
The dog's dead. Yeah.
Car breaks down. It's all his fault. It's true. In the very beginning, that would come up a whole lot. I mean, now it's not as common that we say that, but yeah, it kind of became this inside joke between me and Thomas. If I would just be like, why? This is driving me crazy. Why is this happening? And he'd be like, well, it's clearly your ex-husband's fault.
There you go. It's got to be. I mean, it's kind of like playing 3 steps to Kevin Bacon.
Yeah. Yeah.
How can we trace this unfortunate event to your ex-husband?
Yeah. It's like the car breaks down, and it's like, well, I wouldn't have had this car if I hadn't have married Thomas, which I wouldn't have done if I hadn't gotten a divorce, which I only did because my ex-husband's a jerk. It's his fault that the car broke down, right?
Right, there you go.
That's the whole 3 degrees thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, pretty much anything becomes his fault. So, yeah, that's kind of one of the things we did. One of the other things we did early on, and this one in particular is, you know, I'm a little bit embarrassed to even say that we did this, but Thomas and I...
You're not going to embarrass me, are you?
Yeah, well, we both did this. Thomas and I went into this store, and they had all these cool T-shirts with all these various sayings and everything like this, and it was really, really neat. And so they, of course, had T-shirts about your exes. And so Thomas bought one T-shirt, and I bought a different one, and mine said, it's better to have loved and lost than to live with an bleep, an an ass. I'll just say it. To live with an ass. I don't know if the shirt said ass.
A monkey's butt.
It said better to have loved and lost than to live with a jerk the rest of your life.
Yes.
Or something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Right.
I'd have to dig it out. I probably have it upstairs.
I came across mine yesterday when I was looking through a drawer with old, I got to purge my wardrobe, and I came across all these T-shirts that I saved because I thought they were funny. But mine said, I miss my ex, but my aim is improving.
Yeah, so we had our own little, and we'd of course wear them at the same time. So,
well, I don't think I've worn that shirt more than once.
Well, I think we wore it a few times in the beginning, but we certainly haven't worn them in many, many years.
In the beginning,
yeah, I mean, we would wear them like if my kids were gone and your kids were so little they weren't reading yet, so it didn't matter. But once we got to the age where everybody knew what they said and stuff, then
Yeah, and it's fine. It was just a way of blowing off steam, and in many ways, holding on to that resentment is your worst enemy in a divorce.
It is. I mean, everybody feels that way in the beginning,
right?
And so, I talk about this sometimes because a lot of times when people first contact us, this is the state they're in,
right?
And that's fine. We can handle that. I can even handle, absorbing some of those hits. And so that's why this work is hard emotionally in a lot of ways, and it can be exhausting. But because you are kind of absorbing other people's negative feelings that they're processing.
Right.
But if I have somebody that I can't move through that, that's when you get to a point where you kind of have to go, I can't do anything else to help you. Like, if you're upset, but you don't want to feel that way and you want to change and you want to be able to be positive, I can work with that. I can help you with that. I can give you strategies. I can help you process. I can do things. But if you're like, I'm bitter and angry and I just want to live in bitter and angry the rest of my life because I'm not going to give the other person the satisfaction of me not being bitter and angry, that's when you're destroying yourself.
Right. So what's your divorce song?
No, I think there's one more. So my ex-husband was the cause of all the things, and we had the T-shirts.
Oh, so it's my turn.
But I want you to tell, before we get to the songs, what your little thing was that you would always say.
Oh,
you hope she.
Oh, yeah. I would remark, when I was feeling particularly bitter, I would say, but after all, sometimes there's these satellites that they put up into space. And after they've done all they came to do, they're just kind of a piece of space garbage. And every once in a while, one of them falls back to Earth. And sometimes they hit the ground. And wouldn't it be funny if
they happen to hit the exact spot on the ground?
Yeah, where my ex-wife was standing. It's kind of like, you're walking down the street and wow, I didn't see that coming.
Yeah. So sometimes if we'd try to call her, I couldn't get a hold of her or whatever about the kids or whatever, he'd be like, well, maybe she finally got hit by a piece of space debris.
Space debris, yeah.
That became our running joke about her.
Our little code word, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And, I'm not bitter, especially not now. I'm not bitter. But that's just a humorous way of dealing with the bitterness of being a left spouse.
Right. Okay, so let's talk about our divorce songs.
Okay. All right, I'll do mine first. There's a blues artist by the name of Robert Cray who does an album called Strong Persuader. And I've had this album since the 90s. The songs are all about breaking up and about sexual conquests. And really, it's the perfect divorce album. It kind of expresses the male side, if you will, of these feelings. But there's one in particular that's called I Guess I Showed Her. And the whole song is about how he's moved to this studio apartment. Room 16 ain't got no view, but the hot plate's brand new. I guess I showed her. So he's moved out of his house. She can have it. I showed her. I left her. I showed her. I may be cooking on a hot plate and sitting in a room, one-room studio apartment.
But I showed her.
That's right.
God darn.
I guess I showed her that a man, can have his limits.
Yeah, and what brought this up, that refreshed it in Thomas's memory, was said kitchen that is stripped, as was talking about earlier. We resorted to buying a hot plate because of not being able to cook in our kitchen. And so this brought this song up in Thomas's head, and he's been walking around singing it. And I finally said, "What are you singing?" And he goes, "Don't you know that song?" And I was like, "No, I don't know what you're singing." And so he went through the whole
It's
story
not
with
really
me
a
about
well-known song.
The studio. It's an obscure.
Robert Cray's a blues. If you're not a huge blues fan, you probably don't even know who.
And
he
I'm
is.
not, although I'm from the bluegrass state. But but no, I'm not a blues fan really. So I don't know why, but it's not. It's just kind of the whole album. Like it's Maroon 5's. I don't know if it was their first
blues
album.
in general is good divorce music.
Okay, but
okay,
but
I'm sorry.
About mine now,
I know.
Yours is done. It's my turn.
It popped into my head. I had to say it. Go.
Yeah.
Go.
So what is Maroon 5's? I should have looked this up before we.
Lady.
She Will Be Loved. Is that the title? That's this. Oh, Songs About Jane. Yeah, that's the album, Songs About Jane, which I think might have even been their first release. But anyway,
was Jane his ex-wife?
I don't know who Jane was actually. That might be a good thing to look up. What was Maroon 5's first album? We Like Digging. Oh, I don't even know that. But anyway, I digress. Okay. Yeah. So Maroon 5, Songs About Jane, that album in particular, and I don't think that was necessarily like the choice of the songs or the lyrics or anything themselves. It was more just about, it was popular at the time, and it's what you heard on the radio a lot, and it's what, I had young kids, and it's a lot of what they listened to, and that like stuck with me. So every time one of those songs comes up, it takes me like right back to my was an attempt at a Maroon 5 whistle there.
That was the Moves Like Jagger.
Yeah, that's not on Songs About Jane.
No.
That's not on that album.
She married a man who has moves like Jagger.
Oh, but bump. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
That's right.
But like the other songs over time that that have popped in at different points is like, if you're a country fan, Toby Keith, How Do You Like Me Now?
Yep, that's a good one.
That's a really good one.
Right.
I like, I'm not a huge Britney Spears fan, but her song Stronger.
You are a huge Britney Spears fan. You are too. No. Yeah, you have a Britney Spears station. Oh, not what? Britney Spears. I'm thinking
No,
I'm thinking of the other chick.
Yeah, you're thinking of the other chick. No, so I'm not a huge I like some of her music, but I'm not like, a big fanatic or anything. But anyway, I do like her song Stronger. That's a good divorce song. And Kelly Clarkson has a good one too. I don't know.
Let me go back to How Do You Like Me Now, because
that's a good one, huh?
It's a good one because that's kind of the attitude. If you're going to direct your anger somewhere, that's where to direct it.
Right.
In other words, towards yourself. And the philosophy is that the best revenge is living well. And so to the extent that you've moved on without this person, because divorcing people tend to cling to the ends of the tattered
phrase,
ends of their old relationships.
Yeah.
And that's just not a good strategy.
Or even get sucked back in. Like we see a lot of times where people have separated and then, they end up having a moment of weakness and, spend a night together or whatever. And what that does is it causes you to have to rip that Band-Aid off all over again. Like it impedes your healing from that process. And so it sort of keeps you stuck. And I went through that for several months with my ex-husband. It's like, he would come up, he would be nice, I would fall for the usual crap. And then here I am back at square one again,
I got 2 words for you. Shania Twain.
Yeah, I was going to say that earlier. Shania Twain has a lot of good like women power songs. Like just her whole album is just, and it's not the thing that's funny is like it's not negative about men. It's just positive about women.
Yeah.
You know, I mean some of the things are, but not
like
not
the one where she smashes up his truck.
Oh, that's a really good one. I really did listen to that one during my divorce. The one you're talking about is I see her in my head, Carrie Underwood.
Was that Carrie Underwood?
That's a Carrie Underwood song.
I thought that was Shania Twain.
No, that is Carrie Underwood. And if you have never heard this song and you are going through a divorce and you're a woman, OMG, you have to go listen to this song.
Maybe he'll think again before he cheats or something.
Yes. Next time he'll think before he cheats or something like that. It's called.
Okay. Google it.
Next time he'll think before he cheats. Yeah, that's what it's called.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and she talks about how, she keyed his car and she's
smashed his headlights,
slashed a hole in all 4 tires, and yeah. Yeah, if you're angry, it's a really funny song to listen to. Don't go slash his tires. I'm not saying that.
That's a bad
That's a bad idea.
It never ends well.
Right, that's called acting out on the anger, right? Yeah. And so this is kind of internal processing. But sometimes just putting on that good angry song and just singing at the top of your lungs with it in your car where nobody else hears.
Dancing. Smashing on the dashboard of the car.
Punching pillows, whatever it is.
Dog.
I was going to say the Kelly Clarkson one is called Stronger also. So it's called What Doesn't Kill You Makes You Stronger. So
yeah.
Yeah, so that's a good one. But it's like I think one of the things that's important to realize in this is just that, these are very normal feelings. Everybody feels this way. I was saying to somebody the other day, we all as parents also want the kids to like us more. You might not be willing to admit that or verbalize it, but it's true.
I always wanted the kids to like me more.
Me too.
I always did.
We still do, like in a certain way. Like, you know what I mean? It's not as, they're older now, so it's not as prevalent, but there's still that little part of you that wants to be the more connected parent or the more, the
more loved.
The more loved.
Everybody
parent.
Wants to be loved by their kids.
Yeah.
Don't discount that. They say, I've heard a lot of people say, well, you shouldn't aspire to have for your kids to love you. And I agree with that. You have to discipline them, and you can't always be their friend. But everybody wants that.
Right. You have a desire to be.
Unless you hate your children. I mean, there's a part of you that wants to be loved by them, and when you're divorcing, you want to be the better parent. And there's the more loved parent.
Yes.
And there's something deeply embedded in human nature that just wants to, prove that you're the better person, or prove that you that they made a big mistake leaving you, or whatever it is.
Yeah. All that is true. And so this is why you have to be, really careful about it, because again, you're going to feel angry. You're going to feel hurt. You're going to have these normal inherent human feelings of wanting your children to love you more and all those kinds of things. And again, our goal is not to tell you not to feel the feelings. Like, feel the feelings, put the song on, sing with it, get boxing gloves and punch a box, what I'm trying to say, a punching bag, go to
tape his picture to it or what?
Yeah, that's a good idea. Throw darts. I prefer darts actually with the picture. Yeah. It's much more accurate.
Got him.
Some people do work out, go to the gym, whatever. We have different ways of coping with our feelings, but you want to have it come out in these types of healthy outlets and not let it, you have to be very conscious of not letting that come out to your kids, or not letting that come out in your behavior or in your text messages, in your whatever that's going to be possibly be seen by the court. All those kinds of places are not the place to release that vitriol.
Well, what I'm thinking is that it's really humor that it makes the difference.
Right.
I'm not really serious.
Right.
When I say
you don't really want space debris to hit her.
I don't. I don't. In fact, that would probably ruin my afternoon if that happened.
But it would be devastating for your kids. In reality, you really don't want that. But the thought of it momentarily feels really good and funny.
But sometimes in my relationship with Tammy, I'm angry and I'm just I'm over the line and I'm yelling and I'm being obnoxious and saying hurtful things and stuff. And she'll come in and say something funny. And it kind of cuts through everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
She'll say something that points out the absurdity of the situation, and that I think that's healthy. I think that's probably saved our marriage more than once.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's something that I think I learned through. I think the therapy helped a lot with that kind of thing of trying to pull it back down and not let it get over the edge. Thomas and I were in marriage therapy for many, many years when we first got together. We had so many hurdles and stepkids and all the things that, make second marriages last so much less that we really, got help right off the bat. And that's one of the things that I, learned about through some, I don't know if it was a book or the therapist or where, but I think it's helpful when we both do that sometimes.
Well, there's this is it Gottman or Gottlieb or somebody who has the love
the horsemen is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse of marriage. I want to say it's John Gottman, but I don't think that's his name. And he writes that
it's Gottman, the Gottman Institute, Gottman.
Yeah, and he says that one of the hallmarks of marriages that stand the test of time is that the parties have a sense of humor and use humor, and I find that a lot of our clients find that off-putting.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say a lot, but occasionally you'll have somebody that goes, either people love it that you have this sense of humor, or they find it offensive because they're going through something that's so dramatic and so life-altering and difficult. And again, not that we don't understand that. We totally, totally do. But it's a way to start processing it in a positive way. And that's really what our focus is.
It lightens it
right.
in a funny way.
Right.
Human life is ultimately tragic.
Right.
Basically, you're going to lose everything
right.
eventually. And there's war, and there's cancer, and there's stubbing your toe. There's all different levels.
Heart attacks. My mother died of a heart attack. Yeah.
There's all different, and ultimately, human life is tragic.
Right.
And I find personally that sometimes the only way I can get through the day is to lighten it with a little humor.
Yeah.
And that's a successful way of dealing, because you can't not feel your emotions.
Right.
But you also can't not deal with them.
Right.
In other words,
you can't just stuff them down.
If you stuff them down, what happens is it's like one of those garbage pails that has the spring lid, and if you put too much garbage in it, eventually the lid blows off of it.
Right.
And that's what stuffing it down does. On the other hand, you can't vomit it out either.
Right.
You can't just
take it out on everybody around you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the garbage can metaphor is what we see in the conscious uncoupling people.
Right.
It's like they're trying to hold it back and hold it back and hold it back, and then it just all blows off, and then they get really angry, like further in. I find that the outburst of the anger is just delayed. It happens further in the process. And again, I think they're trying to do the right thing. They're trying to be good people. They're trying to do all these things, but it doesn't make you a bad person to feel a certain way. It doesn't make you a bad person to say, I'm upset, I'm angry, I'm whatever.
Hurt.
Right. But what is bad is if you act out on that. Right. It's not bad to feel it. You mentioned Gottman. in just the four, we talked about that we were being serious. It's the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse for marriages.
For marriages and
so,
relationships.
if you haven't read him, he's really, really good. And he says that the 4 horsemen are criticism, defensiveness, stonewalling, and contempt. And I think that, contempt is sort of the death knell, because when we...
Yeah, it's like the death rattle.
Yeah, right, because when we meet people, a lot of times this is the phase they're in. They're in that contempt phase, and you really can't recover from that.
Yeah.
In our experience. I mean, there's really nothing that you can do. Somebody feels that level of contempt and, disrespect for you. There's really, and I think that's the place my ex-husband got to.
Right.
He was just like, he just dripped contempt for me.
Yeah.
He was just like, I remember him saying things like, just the sight of you makes me sick, and just, different things like that. And there's nothing you can do. And at that point, because it's just too far gone. Yeah.
So,
the last thing I want to share, and we've talked about this before, but when Thomas was very angry in the beginning, he was working with a divorce coach, and he had a choice word on his phone as his label for his ex-wife.
It began with B and it ended in CH.
And in case you were not sure which label it was.
Yes.
And she called when he was in a session, and the divorce coach said, "Who is that?" And Thomas said, "Well, it's my ex-wife." And he said, "Not good. We got to change that." So so Thomas changed it to that. He told him to choose something neutral that didn't mean anything to him or whatever. And so Thomas chose George. And we've talked about this in other episodes. If you've listened to a lot of them or listened to us from the beginning, you'll know this. But called her
the word
George.
George has humorous connotations for me. It's like, George, who's the cartoon character?
Curious George.
Yeah, Curious George.
Yeah.
I don't know why. It's a funny name to me.
Yeah. So George became what we called her until one day when his older son turned about 4 or 5 and said, "Who's George? Is George mommy?" And then we were like, okay.
No.
No more of that, I guess. That era has passed. So we had to stop calling her George and refer to her as mom or whatever. We weren't calling her George to the kids. We were just calling her George to other people. So we had to stop having any kind of conversation in front of the kids that involved anything to do with her, essentially.
Yeah, it was kind of a code word for a while.
Right. It was like how you spell things with kids. It's like, are there any COOKIES left? That kind of thing, where you're trying to keep it a secret.
But you know what? The end result has been, I don't feel that way towards her anymore.
Right.
In other words, we have accomplished, in a sense, what the conscious uncoupling people are trying to accomplish.
Right.
I think that my ex-wife doesn't have angry feelings towards me.
No.
I don't have angry feelings towards her.
Right.
And I see her, and I actually am allowed to once in a while enjoy her company. And we got together, we had lunch. This was, how long ago was that? About a year? That was before Jerry died, wasn't it? Jerry the dog.
Jerry, our dog. Yeah, I think so. Well, you were taking the other dog to the vet, though. You took Kayla.
I think maybe we were taking Kayla.
So Jerry had passed. I think it was last year sometime.
It was last year sometime.
Early last year.
But it's funny because, Emily and I have a similar sense of humor.
Yeah, you do.
And Tammy doesn't always appreciate my sense of humor.
No.
I don't know why.
Yeah.
I make a lot of dad jokes.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think they're hysterical, and she thinks they're stupid.
And I think they're stupid, yes. And it's kind of funny because our 2 daughter-in-laws also think they're hysterical, and my 2 sons also think they're stupid.
Right.
It's like my sons have gone out and married people with similar senses of humor to you, which is a little scary, but.
Yeah, it's interesting, but I actually enjoyed having lunch with her, and my wife was not jealous, I don't think. Maybe a little bit.
No, I'm not usually. You kind of go, well, they're with their ex-spouse. That doesn't feel great. But no, I'm not.
I don't really have any. I don't have any romantic feelings at all for her.
Right.
But but it's nice to know that there was something.
Right. Well, that you could sit in a room together and be cordial and talk about the kids and do whatever.
So Gwyneth Paltrow, if you're listening, that's the way to get there, I think. And the only way to get
she's been divorced a long time, but
but the only way to get to that place is through the negative feelings.
Through the feelings, you have to process them. You can't just stuff them down.
Right.
That does not work. You have to find ways, and hopefully humorous ways of dealing with the difficulty of the situation. Right. I mean, it's kind of a long road. I mean, Thomas and I have been, divorced from our exes for 15, I think this is going on 16 years this year. So it's been, it's been a long journey, but if you can employ some of those things, that really will help you kind of process and move through it, then you're going to be far, far ahead of vast majority of other people, because many people do stay stuck in that anger for a long time.
Yeah, I represent that one woman who broke up when they were little kids, and he owed her like $250,000 in support,
and she was chasing him all over the country trying to get it.
And she's probably still chasing him.
Yeah, and I have an ex that owes me a lot of back support, and that did make me angry for a long time. And, Thomas can sit down with his ex-wife and have this cordial interaction. That's a little harder for me with my ex-husband, not because of the feelings, but just because I can't trust him.
Yeah.
In that way, he won't. I mean, your ex-wife is more trustworthy in that way.
Yeah.
Whereas my ex-husband will find something to, use against me, or, strategy wise or whatever.
Right. And he's looking for an advantage.
Right. He uses it for some advantage. So I have to really keep my distance, not because I particularly feel angry, but just because I get stabbed in the back every time. Right. So I have learned to just stay away.
Right. And that's true. In a way, she is more trustworthy.
Yeah.
And, but the things that I couldn't trust her with are things that I don't have to.
Right.
I mean, she has, I think, with you, my favorite quality in Tammy is loyalty, because I felt that my ex-wife was disloyal, and so I found somebody that I knew would not stab me in the back, no matter what.
Same for me.
Yeah.
I had an ex-husband that had multiple affairs, so loyalty was very high on my list.
Right.
Yeah, very true. So we hope this has been a little more entertaining than maybe some of the heavier topics.
I had a good laugh.
Yeah, did you like it?
Yes.
All right, so that's all our some of our dirty inside secrets of how we coped with it in the beginning. So if you're watching us on YouTube, don't forget to hit like and subscribe to our channel so that you get notified as new videos are released. If you're listening to the podcast, please rate and review us wherever you're listening, iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify. And thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Divorce University online podcast with your hosts, Thomas and Tammy Ferreira. For more information, visit www.divorceuniversityonline.com.